All right, we're back again. Sorry, keep getting phone calls and stuff like that. All right, so moving on, number 7. So notice it says, so we're finding the arc length. Once again, what do you need to find arc length? Well, there's 2 things you need to find. You need to find the diameter, and then you need to find x, and x is the degree measure of the arc, okay? So first of all, let's find the diameter. So v to s is equal to 12 meters or miles, it doesn't matter, but 12. Okay, so v to s. Now, v to s is right here. Well, that's a diameter. Great. We know that the diameter is equal to 12. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to figure out how many degrees is it for arc UT. Okay, arc UT is right there. Alrighty, so we need to figure that out right there. How many degrees is that arc going to be? Okay, well, how are we going to do that? That's a great question. Here's how you're going to do that. First of all, if you notice, this angle right here gives us a hint. So this angle right here is 127 degrees, and this angle is a central angle. So that means that arc right there, which is the intercepted arc for this 127 degree angle, well, that arc has to be 127 degrees. And then if you notice, that central angle right there is 90 degrees. So that means that that arc right there from T to S is going to have to be 90 degrees. Okay, so we know that those two are both going to be 90, and that's going to be 127. All right, well, now if you notice, R to V is 127 degrees, but R all the way around to U is half of a circle. Okay, so that means that R to U is going to be 180 degrees. So 127 take away from 180 is going to give me 53 degrees. So that means V to U has to be 53 degrees. Okay, so now V to U is the same as, and if you notice, V to T has to be 90 degrees. How do I know it has to be 90? Well, if that's 90, S to T, that means S around to V is half of a circle, so that has to be 180. So that 53 plus whatever that is has to be 90. So 90 take away 53 is going to give me 37 degrees. So that means U to T is 37 degrees. So that means U to T is 37. So that means I just found my X in my formula, my degree measure of the arc. So now I could just plug in the values into my formula to find the arc length. So I'm going to take the diameter, which is 12. I'm going to multiply that by pi. And then I'm going to multiply that by the fraction 37 over 360. Okay, so what we're saying is we're saying this arc, U to T, is 37 degrees out of 360. Okay, that's the fraction, that's the portion of the circumference that it is. Now, once again, when we work this problem out, work it out on your calculator from right to left. Okay, probably the easiest way to do it, in my opinion. Okay, so I'm going to take 37. I'm going to divide it by 360. See what that equals. Then I'm going to multiply that by pi. I'm going to use 3.14 for pi. See what that equals. And then I'm going to multiply that by 12. And that's going to be my answer. So I get 3.87. So in number 7, the answer is, so arc UT, okay, the length of arc UT is going to be 3.87. All right, so there we go. There's number 7. Okay, moving on to number 8. Notice once again, so I'm finding the arc length. 2 things I have to know to find arc length. I have to know the diameter. So let's see if I know the diameter. So J to H is equal to 21 inches. Okay, so where's J? Where's J? Right here. Where's H? There's H. That's a diameter. Awesome. So we know the diameter is 21. The other thing we have to do is we have to find out how many degrees is it. We have to find the degree measure of the arc. The arc is KJG. Okay, so if I started at K, I went around the circle through J, and I kept going all the way around the circle to G, you could see that that arc is going to be, that measures the entire circle minus this part right here. Okay, so let's figure out what we know. We know that central angle is 59 degrees, so that means G to H is 59 degrees. The arc G to H is 59 degrees. We know this central angle is 85 degrees, so that means arc J to I is 85 degrees. We know that J to H is 180. Okay, so since J to I is 85, J to H is 180. If I take away 85 from 180, that's going to give me, let's see, what's that going to give me? 95. So we know that I to H is going to be 95 degrees. Okay, and then if you notice that H to I is the same as K to J. So K to J is going to have to be 95 degrees as well. And I know they're the same because both of those angles are the same there, and they're vertical angles. So if the angles are the same, their arcs have to be the same. So that means KJG is going to be 95 plus 85 plus 95 plus 59. So that's going to be my X in my formula. That's going to be my degree measure of my arc. Okay, so 95 plus 85 plus 95 plus 59, that's 334 degrees. Okay, so now I could plug it into my formula. My diameter is 21 times pi times the fraction, and it's going to be 334 over 360. Okay, and now when I work this out, remember, I think the easiest way is plug it into your calculator from right to left. All right, so here's my calculator. I'm going to plug it in, see if I can move it so you can see it. There we go. Wonder if I turn off that light there if you can see it a little bit better. Yeah, it looks like it. So I'm going to take 334. I'm going to divide it by 360. That's going to give me a decimal. Then I'm going to multiply that by pi. I'm going to use 3.14 for pi. That's going to give me that answer, and then I'm going to multiply that by 21. There's my answer. 61.18. It said round to the hundredths. So 61.18 is arc, that's the length of arc KJG for number 8. Okay? All right, moving on to the back side. So in the back side of the worksheet, I've already done number 9 for you. The direction said find the area of each shaded sector. Remember, a sector is like you think of a sector like a slice of pizza. Okay? So I'm finding the area of the slice of pizza. And the way you do that is you use the formula pi times the radius squared times x over 360. X stands for the degree measure of the arc. So there's two things you need to know to find the area of the sector. You need to know r, the radius, and then you need to know the degree measure of the arc. You want to figure out how many degrees is the piece or the slice of the pizza, the arc that you have. Okay, so let's look at this. Number 10. G to H is 13. Now you can't see H. H is right there. Okay, so that means G to H. So here's G, there's H right there. That's a radius. So we know that the radius is 13. All right, that's awesome. Now, what do we want to do now? Well, we want to find this arc right here. Okay, G to I. Well, that's 120. So that means that arc right there is 120 degrees. Okay, well, I don't want to find that arc. I want to find this arc right here. Well, what is that? Well, that arc is going to be 120 minus 360. So if you notice, 360, which is an entire circle, 4 degrees, minus 120, that's 240 degrees. So that means that arc is 240. That's x in my formula. So now I could just plug into my formula. So I'm going to take pi. I'm going to multiply it by the radius, which is 13 squared. And then I'm going to multiply that by the fraction, x over 360. X is 240 over 360. Okay? Now, once I get my formula, all I got to do is just plug this into my calculator. Okay? And when you do this, I suggest do the exponent first. So you got to work out 13 squared first. 13 squared is 169. So we're going to get pi times 169 times the fraction, 240 over 360. Now when you work this out on your calculator, once again, probably easiest to work it out right to left in order to figure out your answer. So you're going to take 240 Once again, you can't see this on the calculator. There we go. You're going to take 240. Well, that might make it easier. The lights just went out on me in class. Let me get the lights on here. There we go. You're going to divide that by 360. You get a decimal. You're going to multiply that by 169. You get that. And then you're going to multiply that by pi. And I'm going to use 3.14 for pi. Okay, so there's my answer, 353.77. We're always rounding to the hundredth spot. That second 7 is in the hundredth spot. So my answer is 353.77. That is the area of that sector, that section of the circle. Okay, moving on to number 11. All right, so we're finding the area of this section. So this is kind of like Pac-Man here. And that's a huge slice of pizza, if we think of it in a slice of pizza. Okay, so what are the things we need to know to find the area of the section? Well, we need to find the radius. Do we know the radius? It says y to z. Now, you can't see the letter y, but the letter y is right there. So y to z, that's a radius. Awesome. So the radius is 9. And then the other thing we need to know is we need to find x. And remember, x is the degree measure of the arc for your section of the circle. So we want to know how many degrees is that part of the circle right there. Well, if you notice, that part of the circle from x all the way around to z, it's the entire circle except for the 45 degrees. So that means that is 360 minus 45. That is 315. So my arc is 315. Plugging this into my formula to find the area of the sector, which is like the slice of a pizza. This is a huge slice of pizza right here. That would be like Keanu is taking that slice and Mr. Trutna gets that slice. I would take pi. I would multiply it by the radius to the second power. The radius is 9, so 9 to the second power. That's going to be 81. And then I would multiply it by the fraction x over 360. X is 315. So it'd be 315 over 360. Okay, when you work this out, do the exponent first. 9 to the second power is 81, so we're going to go pi times 81 times the fraction 315 over 360. Okay, once we get to this point, we're just plugging it into my calculator. Now, when we plug it into the calculator, plug it in from right to left. Okay? So let me get it kind of situated here. Get it so you can see the calculator. There we go. So you're going to take 315. You're going to divide it by 360. That's 0.875. You don't have to write that down. Then you're going to multiply that by 81. That's equal to 70.875. You don't have to write that down. Then you're going to multiply that by pi. And I'm going to use 3.14 for pi. Some of you use the pi button on your calculator. If you use the pi button on your calculator, you'll get a slightly different answer than me. But I get 222.54. I'm rounding to the hundredth, so that 4 is in the hundredth, so I'm going to have to say 222.55 is my answer. So number 11, the area of the sector is 222.55. Okay, moving on to number 12 here. We're finding the area of this section right here. Notice it says M to N. You can't see the M, but the M is right there. So M to N, that's a radius. So the radius is 29.5. Okay, remember there's two things we need to know to find the area of the sector. We need to know the radius, and we need to know the degree measure of the arc, which is the x in the formula. So how many degrees is the arc of the section? The section is this shaded part here. So it's the entire circle except for that 90 degrees right there. Okay, we know that central angle is 90, so we know that arc L to N is 90. So that means the rest of the circle has to be 270. Why 270? Well, 270 plus 90 is 360. So now I'm ready to put it into my formula. Pull this down a little bit so you can see the formula. So the formula to find the area of a sector is we take the number pi, we multiply it by the radius to the second power. The radius is 29.5 to the second power. And then we multiply that by the fraction x. X is 270 over 360. Okay? When you work this out on your calculator, the first thing you want to do is you want to do the exponent first. So you want to figure out what 29.5 to the second power is. You can see that that is 870.25. So this is going to be pi times 870.25 times the fraction 270 over 360. And now when we plug this into our calculator, we go right to left. So I'm going to take 270, I'm going to divide it by 360. I get that decimal, 0.75, don't write that down. Multiply that by 870.25. I get that long decimal, don't write it down. Multiply that by pi, and I'm going to use 3.14 for pi. And there's my answer. So 2049 point, and then it's 43, but the 3 is going to round up to a 4. So 0.44. So there's 2049.44 is going to be the area of number 12. That's the area of that section right there. That shaded part of the circle there. Okay? Number 13. Now number 13, if you notice, and I had told you ahead of time, that angle right there is 118. Okay, so that means that that arc, W to X, is 118. Now that angle is the same as that angle because they're vertical angles. So that means arc VY is 118 as well. Okay, so remember, to find the area of the sector, there's two things we need to know. We need to know the radius. Okay, notice it says X to Y is 30. Here's X, there's Y. Well, that's the diameter. So the diameter is 30, so the radius is half of that. So the radius is 15. And the other thing we need to know is X. And remember in the formula, going back up here, X stands for the degree measure of the arc. Well, the arc, X, is 118 plus 118. We've got two sections that we're finding, and they're the same, so we're just going to add them up. So that adds up to 236. Okay, putting this into my formula, I'm going to go pi times the radius, which is 15 squared, times the fraction x, which is 236, that's a degree measure of my arc, over 360. Okay? And then I work this out. Do the exponent first. Alright, so what is 15 to the second power? If you're not sure, use a calculator. I know what it is. It's 225, but I'll do it on the calculator anyhow, just to remind myself that I know what I'm doing. Just coming off a break, so I'm not 100% with it yet. So I'm going to go pi times 225, and then I'm going to multiply that by the fraction 236 over 360. Okay, now when you work this out on your calculator, go right to left. So take the 236, divide it by the 360. You're going to get a decimal. If the decimal is really long, don't worry about it. Multiply that by 225, which was the radius squared. Then multiply that by pi. Go ahead and use 3.14 for pi. That's not exactly accurate, but that's the best we're going to do. And you can see my answer is 463.15. So number 13, the area, 463.15. Okay, moving on to number 14. We know P to C is equal to 12. So where's P? Where's C? There's C. P, you can't see it. It's right here in the middle. So there's P, there's C. So that's a radius. Fantastic. I need to know that. Remember, there's two things you need to know to find the area of the sector. Okay, you need to know the radius and you need to know X. X is going to be the measure of the arc. So it's going to be, and we have three arcs here. Okay, that one, and that one, and they're all the same though. Okay, and then if you notice, we have that central angle is 60 degrees. So what does that mean? Well, it means that arc is 60 degrees. Now you see that little tick mark there? That tick mark tells me that all of those unshaded sectors are all the same. So that's 60, that's 60. So what's 60, 60, and 60? That's 180. Okay, so how much is left over for the rest of the circle? Well, that'd be 180. Why? Because 60, 60, and 60 is 180. An entire circle is 360. If we take away the 180, which is the unshaded part, that's 180. So my X is 180. Okay, that's the measure of all of my arcs. Okay, so now I'm going to use the formula. So what's the formula say to do? The formula to find the area of a sector says to take pi, multiply it by the radius, which is 12 squared, then multiply that by a fraction, and the fraction is going to be 180 over 360. Okay, work this out. Do the exponent first. 12 squared, that's 144. So we're going to go pi times 144 times the fraction. Now watch this. If I knock those zeros off, that becomes 18 over 36. 18 over 36 is just a half. So if you want to, you could reduce the fraction. You don't have to, because we're going to just type it into our calculator and we're going to work it out. Work it out right to left. So 1 divided by 2, 0.5. 0.5 times 144, 72. 72 times pi, 3.14 for pi. There's my answer, 226.08. So the last problem, the area of the sector would be 226.08.